The third component of emotional intelligence is social awareness, and there's three components to that: empathy, organizational awareness, and service orientation. Empathy is sensing others' feelings and perspectives and taking an active interest in their concerns. Organizational awareness is reading a group's emotional currents and power relationships. Those are big words. What it really means is that you're aware of what's the group dynamics, what's going on in the group, what's the will of the group. And the service orientation is anticipating, recognizing, and meeting co-teachers, children, and parents' needs. I would have to say, I think my experience with teachers, unlike people in the business world, is that most teachers far outstrip people in the business world in social awareness. You're drawn to teaching because you want to do these things. Would you agree with that? And when I can tell you, when I took the EI test, and I've come from the business world, this is my lowest score. And that's what makes you great teachers, right? Do you agree that most teachers are probably better, are more empathetic, are more aware of how the children are feeling and other people are feeling? Do you find these things to be much of an issue in a collaborative environment? You do still?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a difference between being empathetic and just being with social awareness between a teacher and a child. I don't know exactly how to describe it, but it's just naturally, I think, for natural teachers who genuinely love children, it's just there. But when you take it up a level with adults, and part of the reason why I became a teacher was because I work better with children than I do with adults.
Oh, why'd you end up at Suzuki?
I know. But I think that becomes a challenge that you have to decide if it works for you or if it doesn't, because you do have to empathize with other people, and sometimes it's really hard to, because you see their emotions and you're just like, why are they acting this way? And it's because of who you are.
Oh, yeah.
So
what about reading the will of the group? Is that even something you're really aware of?
I think some people are, but it goes back to really listening and observing what's going on around you. But that also takes time to cultivate.
We have a great book that really, Servant Leadership, is all about organizational awareness, isn't it?
It is, and the one thing that I liked in that book that he talked about was when you're working with a group of people, and it talks about love, how you love your staff, not in a I love my staff, but as a verb, as an action word. You want them to grow. You want to nurture them professionally so that they're going to be able to branch out and also be servant leaders.
Right.
And that was huge for me when I read that book, because it really does help with that piece.
I think, as I think back through all the meetings I've been in with teachers, where empathy may become the biggest issue is we have people from a lot of different cultures. And the cultural norms can really affect your behavior, can't they?
Oh, yeah.
Right? If you come from a country where, and you're an older person, and you were never really allowed to voice concerns, right? In a team, you're not going to feel safe doing that. And so, as a new teacher coming in right out of college, and I'm not saying you've been raised in a very different reality. And if you don't really understand how that impacts them, and you can't have the empathy or the interest to learn that, you can assume a lot of things about it.
And by the way, you have the situation in your team, it's way better now. And when you entered the team, it was a little bit better, but I see how it comes better and better.
Because you have different cultures.
She does, and different generations, and they have a person for whom to speak up was extremely difficult. And you see the growth, you see the changes, and how the whole team benefits from this growth.
And the empathy, you are right. So, I mean, we've got teams that multi-gender, right? Different ethnicities, different countries of origin, different races. I mean, just across a lot of attributes. And that's where empathy is probably the most important, because you have to be interested in understanding their cultural context.
That's exactly right.
There's some countries in the world that we've hired people from in negotiations, working through things, that it's okay and considered honorable to lie and to win over someone else. From our culture, that is completely
Wow.
unacceptable.
That's amazing that you just
Right.
said that. That's incredible.
So, but if you aren't aware of those things, now, they're in America, right? They're in America, so that's not okay here. But I place a different, I don't view it the same way. So I have had to learn, and I have to make sure I don't go too far. When someone comes, even if someone comes from a rural part of the United States versus an urban area, their value systems and how they act, the North versus the South, oh my
Oh.
gosh, look at the differences. People coming from a family where there was no father, all those things shape who they are. And that's where the social awareness is so important. First of all, you got to be interested, don't you? You have to be really interested in learning
Yeah.
about that person and those differences.